Deep in Edinburgh's Grass Market sits one of the oldest pubs in Edinburgh. Over hundreds of years, the White Hart Inn has witnessed all sorts of dark history. Everything from being the hunting grounds of serial killers looking for their next victim, to being front and center during the hanging of Edinburgh's most infamous criminals. The White Hart Inn thrives on calling itself Edinburgh's most haunted pub. But with so much history, there will surely be a ghost or two that lingers within the pub's historic walls. Parts of the building and cellar date back to 1516, while the remainder of the pub is said to descend from 1740. Not only is the pub known for being haunted, but it has a really cool backstory. The White Hart Inn was named after an incredibly rare Highland stag spotted by King David in 1128. The original cellar is still used by the pub and is a paranormal hotspot. One of the most prevalent ghost sightings is of detached legs, ghost legs. Other sightings include a dark, ghostly figure wandering the pub, tormenting staff and visitors on their night out. The ghost stories never seem to run out, and people constantly feel the tingles of nearby spirits. Some people feel their hair getting pulled or touched, and they look back to see who the culprit is, only to see no one standing behind them. The spirits can cause quite a bit of harm to the pub, as one entity is known to throw plates and glass jars off of shelves, causing a loud crash of broken ceramic and glass filling the floor. You may know that ghosts can usually mess with electronics, and the ghosts at the White Hart Inn are no different. Often, wires will be pulled from electronics which shut off the music in the pub. Maybe the ghosts just have a different taste in music to what they play at the pub. Other paranormal activity recorded includes the usual culprits of doors being slammed shut, barrels moving around the cellar, and the beer taps malfunctioning. The usual pub ghost activity. Pub guests have captured several ghosts, with the most famous ghost sighting being that of a woman in a red dress. Her ghostly figure can be spotted walking by a couple taking a photo of themselves during their night out. I'll put a picture in the YouTube video, but if you're listening to the podcast, which most of you do, check out the picture on Google. Just search White Hart Inn ghost. She'll be there. A few paranormal investigators have spent time at the White Hart Inn to see if they could reach out to the ghostly patrons that still linger throughout the pub. One group, the Ghost Club, investigated the pub in 2004 and discovered many ghosts that still haunt the building. Some ghosts they discovered are of a woman named Sally, who passed in 1772. They described her as a short woman with light-colored hair who was found laying dead in the grass market. Another ghost was a male named Jack, who is said to have scar-marked skin and was wearing a cloak. His figure was found standing in the keg room in the cellar. Over the years, several famous people in Scottish history visited the White Hart Inn, including Robert Burns. However, as this podcast loves to focus on dark history, we will discuss more sinister men who spent time hanging out at the pub. Burke and Hare. Edinburgh's most infamous and notorious serial killers spent their days and nights filling people up with drink until they could not stand. The White Hart Inn is steps away from William Hare's lodging house, where drunk Scots were lured to after a night of drinking at the pub. The men would then suffocate their victim to death before bringing the body to the nearby medical school, where Dr. Robert Knox would pay top prices for each corpse. During their reign of terror, Burke and Hare killed 16 victims until they got sloppy and started to murder people that were well known in Edinburgh. Finally, the serial killers were caught, and William Hare chose to rat out William Burke for his freedom. William Burke was charged and hanged for his crimes. Unfortunately for the White Hart Inn, he was not hanged in the gallows that once stood a few feet from the pub's entrance. Instead, he was hanged at the old Tolbooth prison, and his body was donated to medical students. You can still find his skeleton standing on display at the Anatomical Museum at the University of Edinburgh. So speaking of hangings, the White Hart Inn and its patrons had a front row seat to some of Edinburgh's most gruesome hangings, including the hanging of half-hanged Maggie. I highly recommend that if you have not listened to the podcast that I did about half-hanged Maggie, you should. She was hanged but survived and lived as a free woman for the rest of her life. It is said that the White Hart Inn would rent out rooms on the upper floors so people could get a better view of the nearby hangings while they drank whiskey and watched the execution of fellow humans. Although hangings weren't super frequent over the years, the gibbet cast its dark shadow over the cobblestones and dirt paths that lined the grass market. There were several notable hangings, besides the hanging of Maggie Dixon in 1736. Captain John Porteous was hanged for causing the Porteous riots. Other hangings included the Covenanters, who were also held in a horribly cold prison in Greyfriars Kirkyard. The prisoners, of whom over 100 were hanged to death outside of the White Hart Inn, are said to haunt the old Covenanters prison at Greyfriars. Will you visit the haunted White Hart Inn the next time you are in Edinburgh? I don't have a taste for Scottish whiskey, but I've heard the pub serves incredible Scottish malt whiskey for you to try. So let me know if you have had any ghostly experiences at the White Hart Inn. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to Everything is Spooky in the Dark, the podcast for WanderingCrystal.com. Bye.